we could all create a little bit more time for ourselves within our busy schedules. In this video and over the next 30 to 45 days, I'm really going to integrate more self-care and more home care into my life and really make space for wellness and healing within my busy schedule. And I invite you to do the same as well. Join me on this journey. Thanks for being here for a part of my journey. I wish you well. My name is Danni Sinclair. I am your holistic interior designer for busy professionals who are struggling to bring a little bit more peace and balance into their spaces. Overall, I am really just looking for more ways to incorporate more joy into my life. My intention for the year is joy, and I am finding more ways to experience joy and to activate joy and to really feel into it. I feel like I tend to get stuck in the phase of doing and not really being mindful about experiencing joy within the moment. For the next 30 to 45 days, I'm going to be taking some micro daily actions that I can do to ensure that I don't fall into the trap of burnout. Normally, my go-to is to try to withdraw from everything and to recluse or to retreat. Normally, I would love to be on a remote beach doing yoga in the sand, drinking smoothies. That's what I want to do, but it's just not practical. In most years, it's not practical, but this year for sure, it's not practical. And yes, while it is good when I make space for something that I want to do, I don't really feel like I'm forced into it. So in this season of self-care and of home care, I'm going to be taking sensible steps of nurturing and pouring into myself to create more space. Okay, so you might be thinking, what prompts this? So let me back up a bit and let me tell you a bit about how I built my holistic interior design business. It was from a circle of burnout. So it seems to me that in the February of almost every year, it's like clockwork. I cannot prevent it. I don't know what it's about, but February rolls around and it's like the emotions get a hold of me. The stress, the overwhelm, the frustration, and the burnout. It's inconceivable. I don't know what it is about February, but I think for some reason, maybe it's the onset of Pisces season. I don't have a lot of Pisces in my chart, and where it is in my chart, it is my descendant. So I think that might be really telling as to why I have such a challenging time in the February and March portion of the year. So let's rewind to February 2019. Things were piling up at my corporate job. My needs were not being met. I was burned out from the overload of the job, the demands of my own personal pressures I put on myself, from perfectionism to people pleasing, a bit of lack of boundaries or having porous boundaries. And altogether, that just makes for a huge disaster. I hit a wall. I crumbled. I had a breakdown, or it's what I like to call a breakthrough. And by the time March rolled around, I had to completely unplug. I was frazzled. I had to remove myself from everything that I knew, from the life that I had built for myself, and I retreated to a remote beach in Nicaragua. All of that was because of the extreme level of burnout that I had. I needed an escape. And I just sat with myself and my higher self. And I was just like, this isn't it. Something else or greater, because I am not in flow. And that's when I got the message. So this year, I have chosen to take a different approach. I'm approaching this season with intention and awareness because I know this season comes up for me annually. I am recognizing that this is a time for healing. It is a time for self-discovery. It is a time for embracing a season of self-care, of home care, and self-love. It is a time for me to slow down. And Typically, the season of February are when things are just beginning to ramp up. It's that transition between winter and spring. But maybe it's the transition that I really need to embrace. So I am being wholly committed to being more sensible, to being holistic, to nurturing myself in my whole approach. It is about finding my inner balance and really embracing my well being. So, if you're ready to join along on this journey with me of self care and mindfulness, I invite you to make space for joy and healing. Okay, let's dive into some common mistakes that professionals or small business owners like me might be experiencing when it comes to trying to manage their busy lives with self care and home care. Understanding these mistakes can help us to identify areas for improvement. First mistake I find is neglecting opportunities for micro self care moments. I think that when we think of self care, we think that it needs to be this grandiose moment. A day at the spa, a weekend getaway. But by incorporating small and often rejuvenating rituals into our day can often make a really big difference in how we feel. Even if it's just taking a few deep breaths, enjoying a cup of tea, stepping outside for a breath of fresh air, these are micro self care moments that we can use to ground ourselves and to help stay charged to get us through the chaos of the day. Other self care rituals that you can incorporate throughout the day is having a 5-minute mindful meditation. If meditating is hard for you, try a walking meditation, a 5-minute stretching routine, try reading a couple of pages from one of your favorite books for a few minutes, sitting with one of your favorite scented candles and watching the flame. That is a meditation. There are so many ways that you can meditate. When it comes to fresh air, it doesn't have to be a long journey. Perhaps just stepping outside for 2 minutes unplugged without your phone can begin to reset the neurons in your brain for relaxation. These self care moments can help us recharge and stay grounded amidst the chaos. Our home plays a significant role in our overall well being, yet, many of us fail to actually prioritize a streamlined and effective home care practice. This leads to clutter and disorganization. And if you've watched any of my other videos, you know how much clutter and disorganization affects our mental state. This can contribute to feelings of stress and overwhelm, anxiety, and frustration. So, by implementing a few simple and efficient home care strategies, we can create a space that truly nurtures and supports rather than adding to our stress. Now, you might be thinking, what do you mean by simple and effective home care strategies? Well, these are routines. Let's say you have a young child at home. You may know it's easier to put the young child to bed if you have a bedtime routine. This bedtime routine does not have to be extravagant, but it's a simple series of habitual steps that you can take that gets you in the mindset for a certain task. It could be as simple as pick up a few things, brush your teeth, read a book. That's it. And then the child knows it's time to go to bed. So a simple strategy for you may be wake up in the morning, make your bed, brush your teeth, have coffee. Finally, and I think this one is the most impactful, not scheduling dedicated self-care time. Many people just simply make the mistake of not scheduling time for themselves. It's easy to prioritize work, to prioritize family, and to prioritize your other obligation well over your own well-being. But if you are neglecting to make time for yourself, you could suffer from some serious consequences. So really be mindful by carving out intentional moments for self-nurturing activities such as meditation, exercise, creative habits. Maybe it's just a bedtime routine that is pampering your skin when you wash your face. One of my favorite practices is using the facial rollers. So before I go to bed, after I wash my face, I will put on my moisturizer and roll my face with my rose quartz roller. This signals me that it's time to relax and unwind, and it's time for me. It's a pampering session. If we implement just simple steps like these, we can tune in and prevent burnout and cultivate a greater sense of balance and joy within our own lives. So I'm not just going to sit up here and tell you all the things that you're doing wrong. I do have a couple of tips that could help you improve on your daily lives. So we've already talked about the act of micro self-care moments. That's a big one. Just being mindful about the little tiny tidbits of self-care that you can implement throughout your day. Perhaps it's just really enjoying your glass of water, taking time with a glass of water. It's just having a nice quiet moment with a cup of tea, or going outside for 2 minutes to get a breath of fresh air. It doesn't have to be big in order to be impactful. Another really impactful strategy that I have for scheduling self-care into my busy life is at the beginning of every month, I choose 2 or 3 days that I dedicate as self-care days. Maybe this day isn't completely dedicated to self-care. I'm not saying I take the whole 24 hours and check myself into a hotel room, although I would love to do that. That's just simply not practical for me and my family. But what I do is on these days, I think of some really impactful ways that I could pour into myself. Maybe this is scheduling time for a massage during my lunch break. Or maybe this is getting a pedicure on this day. Maybe this is checking in with one of my friends and we can go for a nice brisk walk in the park during my lunch break. I usually do things a lot during my lunch break because that's when I have the most time available to me without my kids and without work getting in the way. I'm going to leave you with one last tip. It's arguably the most impactful one. I'm not going to tell you how much sleep you need to get per night because that does vary person to person. But the one thing that you should not do is use your phone between the hours of 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. Scientifically proven to increase depression, and it can also lead to cancer. That's huge. Simply using blue light in the middle of the night makes it harder for your system to regulate and recuperate in the way that it needs to. Overall, I'm just looking for some really impactful ways to bring in more self-love and more joy into my day. Furthermore, if you're struggling to find where you could bring in more opportunities for self-care and self-love within your home, book a redesign consult with me and we can discuss some impactful ways that you could use in your own personalized space to increase your goals. Thanks for tagging along and being a part of my journey. I wish you well, and until next time, stay in peace.